Díomh chairde mise an mhaoinig agus beannachtí na síliamh. Hello everybody, my name is Paul Mooney and I'm the founder of Celtic Crescent. Today I'm going to share with you what Celtic Crescent is all about. It's a 5-year experiment in 6 capitals: financial capital, intellectual capital, human capital, social and relationship capital, natural capital and manufactured capital. And it's a social cohesion process which is being designed to co-create a crowd-funded, sovereign and conscious Brehon law fair share commons eco-village here in Ireland, which provides a safe psychological space for 40 residents and 200 visiting druids, ovates and bards, who will all operate through 7 international business systems, serving 10,000 clients per annum for sustainable growth through immersive heritage, cultural and economic rejuvenation, and it will be expanded by the systemic healing and expansion of individuals, of institutions and civilizations to all 10 Celtic nations, which covers about 150 million people. Celtic Crescent is a fair share commons, and essentially it's a conscious eco-community, it's a guild of dialogue, it's a process for spiritual and physical healing, it's a communal university where more than one person gets a PhD as part of a research project, it's a collection of quantum companies, it's guided by ethical wisdom keepers, and it's a cooperative bank and an investment fund. And here's the overview. So Celtic Crescent is a physical space. It's founded on Brehon law and it's designed to cohere and advance trading civilization on a local scale. That means in a small community, 100 or 200 acres. It's a living community of 40 global professionals who are experienced in sustainable systems development. This is the core revenue for the project. It houses 6 international businesses, projects from day one, and they're projects that I've been building over the last number of years: Cohesion Global, Communiversity, Ovation, Sanctorium, Celtic Investment Treasury, and the Guild of Dialogue. And these companies will pay rent to Celtic Crescent. It will run an Airbnb process in about 50 chalets for 200 druids, ovates and bards who will come and go in order to create well-being Celtonomics as Celtrepreneurs. So they will create products and services, and that's a second revenue stream. Additionally, all the members, both the 40 and the 200 visiting druids, will charge local communities and groups and clubs and customers and clients, and this is the third revenue stream. In 2021, we expect to have 2,500 clients. That will create 10,000 referrals. By the year 2025, we'll have 10,000 clients per annum, creating 50,000 referrals per system. Celtic Crescent's grounded on the feminine principles of food, water, forest, nurture, land, fertility, relationship. And we're co-creating a thing called Celtic Investment Treasury, which is a cooperative bank and an investment fund as a circular economy to trade the indigenous wisdom of the community. It's another revenue stream. We'll be co-creating a 4th level Mode 2 education system called Communiversity, to meet the 4th industrial revolution and impending singularity, which is another revenue stream. We will integrate technology, innovation, renewal, and what we call pilgrimium for druids, customers, and clients. We will transform illness into wellness through sustainable systems healing revenue streams. And we'll be grounded initially in Ireland for the first 5 years, and we'll be using dialogue to deal with shadows and expand the process over time to other Celtic nations as civilizational apprenticeships. The final part of the overview is that we'll be rolled out on a global scale to non-Celtic nations in the north, the south, the east and the west after the 5-year experiment is concluded, and this is our ultimate revenue stream. So we've gathered together a council of experienced people from all over the world. I've been in South Africa for the last 12 years and gathered an amazing group of individuals, and this actually represents the group here, and they'll be holding space for each of these individual organizations. We have an amazing advisory board, again from all over the world, And we have a beautiful set of male, female wisdom keepers from the north, the south, the east, and the west. We have a fantastic number of relationships with institutional partners, and you can see some of them here. I won't go into too much detail. So we have a massive transformational purpose on our hands. So it's an investment vehicle which phases the realization of a massive transformational purpose to empower Celtic nations, integrating our past with a dialogic present as an embodied mythotrend of an advanced civilization. The 7 innovational companies represents transformation as a dialogue between the members of the Celtic diaspora, between organizations in the north, the south, and the east, and the west, within the economic and cultural society as a whole in which Celts reside and live. And we do this by harnessing the economic, societal, and political psyche of the ancient Celtic past as a modern way of being and doing. These innovations, which are essentially companies, they adopt an integral approach to the way in which Celts understand themselves, how they understand others, how they understand organizations and society. And all of this in the quantum dialogic realm of unfolding and enfolding the Celtic psyche as an emerging political and economic science of Celtonomics. It's a new and an old kind of integral association or institution because it's grounded in Celtic society by serving a manifest need for post-COVID societal collaboration, which means the bank, the land projects, the research academy, a community laboratory, healing systems and businesses, all integrated through immersive educational and transformational experiences. Let's go back to 1936. Eleanor Mary said, Ireland lay on the direct route of the expeditions that were sent far away to study the science and medicine of the magnetic lands, and the wisdom that was sought from the American Indians, though already becoming degraded and adulterated. The West, she said, had the strength of the earth and the formative power and the inner gesture of spirit that could carry this light in the chalice of nature as an offering of hope back to Europe and the East. However, and we all know this, the wisdom of the far West imparted to men an elemental will and an unself-conscious power, allied to the electricity and magnetism of the earth, which in time could cause a universal sickness of body and soul. And our COVID times definitely are showing us that we have a universal sickness of body and soul. So Mary said in 1936, the whole question of Celtism in our time presents this polarity too. There's a stirring beneath the surface of things, a secret urge towards the establishment of a new Celtic spirit, a desire for the birth of a purely external political and economic Celtism. And there's the other pole. The Celtic folk soul is no longer the soul of a people, but the soul of a spiritual awakening of mankind. What she's pointing to is the re-emergence of Atlantis. So CeltiCrescent is a digital migration in the opposite way of the migration which took place 5,000 to 8,000 years ago. It includes Ireland, Scotland, the Isle of Man, Wales, Cornwall, Brittany, Spain, and Portugal. So we're trying to co-create value without harm that can last 7 generations. We think the project, our version of it, will last 30 years, but we're building it to last 500 years. So just as many peoples migrated from the east to the west, we are suggesting that we're imagining a digital migration on education, culture, technology, economy, academy as a transformational journey of one and many. We'll be bringing our ancient past, we'll be using dialogue to ground it in the present, and we'll be creating mythotrends, the processes that lasted thousands of years into a singularity-based future. So the Irish have been doing this for a long time, at least 5,000 years. If you look at the Irish here, up to 10 million of us emigrated after 1700, 25% of them emigrated to Australia, 22 American presidents have been Irish, 40 million Americans are also of Irish extent. When you add in the Celts, there are about 150 million Celts on the planet. So this is an idea of what the physical space will look like. We call this a heart quarters. So these are some of the architect's ideas using sacred geometry, circular space, land, water, nature, rocks, indigenous planting, crannog shapes, circle shapes, using the trees, using the land, building labyrinths, vertical farming, working with wilding, growing our own food, managing our own water, having our own plant medicine gardens, and essentially the 50 chalets will be earth houses like this. At the core of Celtic Crescent is a space we call Sanctorium, which is a circular space in which people come together, and there'll be several of these on the site. So it's a 9-meter circular diameter structure. It's 5 meters high, 1.5 meters are underground, 3.5 meters are above ground. And I won't spend too much time on it here, but there are the specifications for the build. We'll be using natural building materials. And this is the overview from the top. So there's a ground floor and there's a mezzanine. You can come in on the mezzanine or you can come in on the ground floor. And it's essentially set up for very deep circle work. And even with COVID restrictions, we can fit 48 people into that circle. It has a colored perspex roof so that the light refracts over everybody. And as you can see there, this is the side view. We have 3 options for physical land here in Ireland. I only got back here in December. It's taken me a few months to figure out a few places. The first option is to own our own land. This is a disused golf course in Wicklow. Our second option is to partner with a Chinese community who are taking space in Navan. And our third option is to move into the west, where we will potentially work with Redwood Castle, where there was an original Brehon and Law Academy thousands of years ago. So what are the 6 businesses that will originally place there? These are the businesses that I've set up in the last number of years. This is the Guild of Ancient Dialogue. This is the online learning and development community. Already there are about 60 members of it, and we're growing as we speak. The second company we'll set up here is Ovation. Here we're doing healing work with a particular emphasis on addiction, any kind of addiction to TV, Netflix, iPhone, and we can go as far as dealing with people who are addicted to alcohol, heroin, and methadone. Our next project is the one that's most developed for me. It's the Cohesion Global process, taking the ideas of David Baum and deploying those in organizations, right from the chief executive to the executives, to the staff, training guides how to run circles, putting in a measurement system which links all the development to the profit and loss account on the balance sheet, then coming back into the 6 capitals, and then training people right up to PhD level as a group. And what we have seen in our processes is that for every 10% shift in the cohesion dashboard, the client achieves a 6% in economic output. There are 2 case studies that we're working in Ireland at the moment. One is for the Atlantic Economic Corridor. We'll work with 14 people, then 140, and then 1,400, and then 14,000. And we hope to get to 140,000 people within 2 years. Second case study is an international case study with Anglo American, where we're working with the head of sustainability reporting. We hope to start with 12 people there and then evolve that through the organization over time. The Communiversity is a communal PhD ecosystem. It's a community, a laboratory, an academy, and a pilgrimum, and we'll be using this both to move backwards and forwards through Celtic indigenous wisdom in order to create a system which will eventually train about 46,664 PhDs. These are the conceptual and philosophical frameworks, but I won't spend too much time on them now because I just want to give you an overview. The Academy is the place where the research fellows and the associates integrate culture, nature, technology, and academy. They center on local identity. They evolve local grounds. They're deeply immersed in archaeology, anthropology, ecology, indigenous wisdom, and economics. And they have a deep immersion into the 6 innovations. They will be working on archaeoastronomy, archaeoacoustics, archaeometry, archaeogenetics, working with the local mycelium, the Celtic tree of life, sacred spaces, astrological designs, and the ancient Irish monastic movement. Another word from our ancestor, George William Russell. The cooperative movement connected with living links to the home, the center of Patrick's being, and then to the nation, the circumference of his being. Again, we see that idea of circle. And it connects him with the nation through membership of a national movement, not for the political purposes which call on him for a vote once every few years, but for an economic purpose which affects him in his daily occupation. The evolution of humanity beyond its present level depends absolutely on the power to unite and create true social organisms, such as Celtic Crescent. Life in its higher forms, it said, is only possible because of the union of the myriads of tiny lives to form a larger being that manifests the will, the intelligence, the affection, and spiritual powers. I won't spend too much time on the business model other than to say our cooperative bank will partner with a credit union. It will acquire its own funding license. We will use investor funding as ascension capital to churn positive growth. We will fund our own innovations. We will fund small projects. We will acquire shares in companies. We will deploy the Cohesion Global, increase them in value. We will sell our shares in order to keep all of that money moving. We plan to raise 30 million euros in the year of 2020. 16 will go to fund the project, 7 to an Ascension fund, and 7 to a day trade fund. We will multiply all of those by 5 within the 5 years. And the top numbers is that any investor who puts in the 30 will yield back 111, and the Communiversity and Celtic Crescent will yield 141 million in the 5 years. Then we'll have our own fund, and we go into the next 5-year plan and the next 5-year plan, so you can see how this evolves over time. There's too much detail here. I'm not going to go into it. And there's too much detail here other than to say in our first year of operation, we will have 2,500 clients. They will impact on about 15,000 referrals. Within the 5 years, we have 30,000 clients and they will create 216,000 referrals. If we wanted to look at Celtic Crescent as chakra mapping, at the root chakra, which looks at survival, money and food, we have the treasury. At the sacral chakra, which looks at abundance, joy and pleasure, we have an ovation. At the solar plexus chakra, which is about self-worth and self-confidence, the sanctorium, where we do all that deep circle work. In the heart chakra, for love, joy and peace, the Communiversity, where groups earn their PhDs. The throat chakra of communication and truth, it's Cohesion Global. The academy, which is the third eye chakra, is around initiation, imagination and wisdom, and the guild operates at the crown on divine consciousness and spiritual connection. Thank you for listening to me today. I hope this is a short overview, and I look forward to joining with you in the community over time. Thanks very much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you.